Eternal Night. Emily Hartley was a passionate young historian, always delving into ancient texts and forgotten manuscripts. Her fascination with history stemmed from a desire to understand the past and how it shaped the present. One evening, as she sifted through the archives of an old university library, she stumbled upon a peculiar manuscript. Bound in weathered leather and written in an archaic script, it seemed out of place among the more conventional historical documents. The manuscript, titled The Chronicles of the Shadow, immediately piqued her curiosity. It appeared to be a detailed account of significant historical events, but with a sinister twist. The author, whose name was nowhere to be found, wrote of a mysterious figure manipulating events from behind the scenes. Intrigued, Emily began to translate the text, her excitement growing with each passage. As she read, a pattern emerged. Wars, revolutions, and the rise and fall of empires. All had been subtly influenced by this shadowy figure. The manuscript described the manipulator as an ancient being, one who thrived on chaos and darkness. Emily's initial skepticism gave way to a gnawing sense of dread. Could this be the work of a madman? Or was there some truth to these fantastical claims? Determined to uncover more, Emily dedicated herself to the manuscript. Days turned into nights as she pored over the text, cross-referencing it with historical records. To her astonishment, she found corroborative evidence. Subtle details in the manuscript matched obscure facts about pivotal moments in history. The figure described in the manuscript seemed to possess an uncanny knowledge of future events, often appearing just before major disasters or conflicts. Emily's research led her to the name Alaric. The manuscript mentioned this name repeatedly, always in conjunction with the manipulations of the shadowy figure. She delved deeper into historical records, looking for any mention of an Alaric who could fit the description. Her efforts seemed fruitless until she stumbled upon an ancient legend from Eastern Europe, a tale of a vampire named Alaric who was said to have lived for centuries, leaving a trail of darkness in his wake. The legend described Alaric as a powerful vampire who thrived on chaos and death. According to the myth, Alaric had been a warrior prince who was turned into a vampire after a brutal betrayal. Consumed by vengeance and a thirst for power, he had used his newfound abilities to influence the course of history, always staying in the shadows. Emily's heart raced as she connected the dots. Could this vampire be the manipulator described in the manuscript? The implications were staggering. If Alaric were real, he could still be out there, orchestrating events to suit his dark purposes. Her mind reeled with the possibilities. She knew she had to find out more, even if it meant putting herself in danger. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Emily decided to travel to the region where the legend originated. She hoped to find more clues and perhaps even locate Alaric himself. Before leaving, she confided in her mentor, Professor Hawthorne, who shared her passion for history and the supernatural. Professor Hawthorne listened intently to Emily's findings. Though skeptical, he agreed that the manuscript was extraordinary. He cautioned her to be careful, warning that legends often had a grain of truth but could also be deadly traps. He provided her with contacts in the region who might assist her and promised to continue researching from the university. Armed with the manuscript, her notes, and a growing sense of unease, Emily set off for Eastern Europe. Her journey took her through ancient forests and remote villages, places steeped in myth and superstition. Everywhere she went, she asked about Alaric, carefully avoiding drawing too much attention to herself. In one village, she met an old woman named Maria, who seemed to know more than she let on. Maria spoke of a dark figure who had haunted the region for centuries, a creature of the night who fed on the living. She warned Emily that those who sought Alaric often met tragic ends. Despite the warnings, Emily pressed on. She felt she was on the verge of a great discovery, one that could change the course of history. Her search led her to a crumbling castle deep in the Carpathian Mountains, a place whispered about in fearful tones by the locals. According to Maria, this was where Alaric had last been seen, As Emily approached the castle, an eerie feeling settled over her. The air was thick with foreboding, and the silence was oppressive. She steeled herself and crossed the threshold, determined to uncover the truth about Alaric and his dark machinations. Little did she know, her journey was only just beginning, and the shadows of the past were closer than she could have ever imagined. The castle was a monument to a bygone era, its stone walls covered in ivy and moss. As Emily stepped inside, her footsteps echoed through the empty halls. The air was damp and cold, carrying with it a faint metallic scent that made her uneasy. Her flashlight flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to dance along the walls. Emily made her way through the labyrinthine corridors, her senses heightened by the eerie silence. The manuscript clutched in her hand felt heavier with each step, as if it were a tangible link to the darkness she was pursuing. She found herself drawn to a large, ornate door at the end of the hall. With a deep breath, she pushed it open. The room beyond was a grand library, its shelves filled with ancient tomes and scrolls. A large wooden desk stood in the center, covered in dust and cobwebs. Emily's heart raced as she approached the desk, her eyes scanning the titles on the shelves. Many of the books were in languages she couldn't read, but their age and condition suggested they held secrets long forgotten by the world. As she sifted through the papers on the desk, she found a journal written in a flowing, elegant script. It appeared to be the personal account of someone who had lived in the castle centuries ago. The entry spoke of dark rituals and secret gatherings, of a powerful figure who controlled the fate of nations. Emily's hands trembled as she realized she had found Alaric's journal. The journal provided a chilling insight into Alaric's mind. He wrote of his transformation into a vampire, describing the excruciating pain and the insatiable thirst for blood that followed. His bitterness and desire for revenge were palpable in every word. As Emily read on, she saw how Alaric had used his powers to manipulate kings and emperors, orchestrating wars and plagues to suit his whims. One entry caught her attention. It spoke of a ritual that could grant Alaric even greater power, enabling him to plunge the world into eternal darkness. Emily's blood ran cold as she realized the ritual's description matched the events detailed in the manuscript. Alaric's grand plan was to enact this ritual, bringing about an age of unending night. Her mind raced as she pieced together the implications. If Alaric succeeded, the world as she knew it would be plunged into chaos. She had to stop him. But how could she defeat an ancient vampire with centuries of experience and power? Emily's thoughts were interrupted by a soft rustling sound behind her. She turned, her flashlight revealing a figure standing in the doorway. Tall and imposing, with eyes that seemed to pierce through her very soul, Alaric stood before her. His presence was overwhelming, a dark aura that filled the room with an oppressive weight. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she faced the creature of legend. "Ah, the curious historian," Alaric said, his voice smooth and cold. "I wondered when you would find your way here." Emily struggled to find her voice. "Alaric," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "Why are you doing this? Why plunge the world into darkness?" Alaric smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes. "Because darkness is where I thrive, my dear. Chaos and despair are the lifeblood of my existence. The world has grown soft, complacent. It needs a reminder of true fear, true power." Emily felt a surge of anger and determination. "I won't let you succeed," she said, her voice steadier now. "I'll stop you." Alaric laughed, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "And how do you plan to do that, little historian? You are but a mortal, and I am eternal." Emily's mind raced, searching for a way to turn the situation to her advantage. She remembered the manuscript and the clues it held. There had to be something, some way to stop Alaric. She needed to buy time, to think. "Tell me about the ritual," she said, trying to keep Alaric talking. What do you need to complete it? Alaric regarded her with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. Very well, he said. I suppose it won't hurt to indulge you. The ritual requires a blood moon, the alignment of certain celestial bodies, and a sacrifice of immense power. The final piece is an artifact hidden within these walls, an amulet that once belonged to an ancient sorcerer. Emily's mind raced. She had to find the amulet before Alaric could complete the ritual. But how? The castle was vast, and she had no idea where to start. As if sensing her thoughts, Alaric's smile widened. You will never find it in time, he said. But I do enjoy a good game. Let's see how far your determination takes you. With that, Alaric vanished into the shadows, leaving Emily alone in the library. She knew she had to act quickly. Gathering her courage, she set out to find the amulet and stop Alaric's plan before it was too late. The fate of the world depended on her success, and failure was not an option. Emily's heart pounded as she raced through the castle, guided by the clues Alaric had inadvertently revealed. Each step echoed her determination and fear. She finally found herself in a hidden chamber beneath the castle, where an ancient altar stood, adorned with symbols of dark magic. There, amidst the relics of forgotten sorcery, lay the amulet. Just as her fingers closed around it, Alaric appeared, his eyes burning with fury. But Emily had anticipated this. With a swift, desperate move, she invoked the amulet's power, reciting the words she had deciphered from the manuscript. A blinding light engulfed the chamber, and Alaric's scream of rage and pain reverberated through the walls as the amulet's magic consumed him, breaking the dark spell he had woven over centuries. In the aftermath, the castle crumbled into ruins, and Emily barely escaped with her life. The town, freed from the shadow of Alaric's influence, slowly returned to normalcy, unaware of the true nature of their deliverance. Emily, however, carried the weight of her encounter with her. She returned to her studies with a newfound resolve, knowing the world still held many dark secrets. Her encounter with Alaric was a stark reminder of the thin veil between history and legend, and she vowed to remain ever vigilant, ready to confront the shadows that lingered in the forgotten corners of the past. The amulet, now safely hidden, served as a reminder of the power she had faced and the courage it took to stand against it.